How are we doing, everybody, and welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today I'm going to be talking about the right elbow move in the golf swing. So it's a really important thing to understand in terms of how the right elbow functions in the takeaway, going into the top of the backswing, in the transition, so the start of the downswing, into impact and into the through swing. So we're going to start to discuss each segment of those and the importance and things that you need to look out for. Better position, obviously, depending on your grip, will depend on where the elbow sits, but to be honest, it doesn't really cause too much relevance. Some people, it might already, if you grip it slightly stronger, be closer towards your right hip. For golfers who have the right hand sitting more on top, the right elbow will be more parallel towards your left elbow. Doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, in that first kind of setup position. In terms of the takeaway, one of the things that I would advise is that when you start taking the club back, is it's absolutely fine for the right elbow to start to move towards your right hip. So you can see as I start taking it back, it operates towards the side of my hip like so. The reason why I think this is important is because of two accounts. One, it helps you stay nice and connected when you take the club back. Two, what it starts to do is it helps you stay more in posture, or it helps you create more of a tilt. So one of the problems that I see with a lot of golfers is that when they start to take the club back, they start to create too flat a shoulder rotation. What you can start to see in this takeaway position here is that the way the right elbow is located in front of my right hip. A lot of golfers tend to do this because they feel like it will help them become more powerful into impact. So you're almost trying to manipulate the takeaway position to improve your impact position, but it won't work like that. You can't just hold it there, because then you'll get into a position which is known as stuck, which basically means that you won't be liberated, you won't be athletic, and you can't just manipulate it into a position and expect it to stay there. It won't materialise like that. So the benefit of allowing it to fold to the side of you, I'll discuss in terms of the backswing position as well, but also what we can see is it helps me stay more in posture. But also by going this way, it helps me keep the club face square, as opposed to if I drive the elbow forward, I'm going to be more opposed to kind of lifting and drifting off the ball, but also the club face starts to rotate too open. So in the first move, in that takeaway, the elbow needs to operate to the side of your hip. Keeps you connected, keeps the face square, helps you stay nice and tilted in that first movement. Okay, then going into the backswing position, what I like to see in the backswing is I like to see leverage. So I don't like to see golfers try and swing too flat. So the problem that this possesses is this again is when you get too stuck. So from this sort of position, it might look good, it might look on plane, but from here I'd have to create a huge amount of rotation to create the clearance so my elbow can stay in front of me. Doesn't always materialise that way, which is why a lot of golfers then start to get more vertical into the transition, because it's the only way the club can still hit the ball. What I'm therefore advocating is that we've already now got a takeaway where the right elbow is starting to drift more towards the side of your right hip bone. From here you are going to get more of a feeling of picking your arms up. By picking your arms up, as a good reference at the top of the backswing, I would normally advocate that if you drew a line horizontally underneath your left elbow, that's exactly where your right elbow would be positioned equally. We don't really want the right elbow getting too tucked underneath the left elbow, going in towards the backswing position. The main reason for this is, like I say, one, you're going to get stuck, and two, that's where you're trying to go in towards the downswing. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go back in this manner, because then you're going to be stuck almost in your downswing position. And one of the most athletic and liberating things you can achieve in your golf swing is to feel a significant change in direction of the shaft angle, which is also known as a shallowing move. What I mean by this is that, you know, imagine baseball. You would start this way, shaft nice and vertical, and then as you come into the downswing, you would feel the change of direction. The same as throwing a ball, you'd start like this, and then you would do this. You wouldn't start the baseball swing by getting stuck here. Yeah, it wouldn't be as athletic. So what I'm suggesting is that the benefit of allowing your right elbow in that takeaway move to operate more to the side of your body is then you can lift. By lifting, yes, the arm will go higher, that's fine. It helps you strike down, it helps keep the arms in front on the way down. The right elbow going more up is good, because then what you can start to feel in that downswing is then you can start to feel the change of direction. What I mean by the change of direction is that basically as soon as you start coming towards this downswing, the right elbow is going to be trying to drive in front of your right hip bone. By creating this movement, basically it's going to enable the shaft to get more shallow, which means it's going to start to go more, in theory, on plane. Also, by going from here to here, it's going to feel much more powerful than trying to manipulate this position and coming down. Less likely to get stuck, is really going to help you improve your athleticism, your ball striking as well. Shallowing of the club is important on numerous reasons. One, because obviously golf is a side-on sport, so it's very rotational based. So if you want to continue to rotate, you need the club to act in accordance. What I mean by this is if the shaft comes down too vertical and you're trying to rotate, then the club is going to kind of go on the wrong path in towards its direction into the ball, which then causes a stall, which means that you have to compensate and stop swinging at your kind of capacity. If you can get the shaft to kind of shallow off in this manner by driving the right elbow in front of the right hip, then you can continue to rotate because the club is going to continue its journey working on an arc until you make contact with the ball, which is arguably the most powerful way that you can do. The more rotation you can get in your golf swing, the more club head speed you're going to be able to create, which means the further you're going to be able to hit the ball. Impact is a funny one. It can be different for different levels of golfers. We see tour pros at the point of impact where we'll notice the right elbow is almost glued towards the right hip. We'll see some pros at impact where the right elbow is further away from the right hip. The reason why you would look differently at impact would be a lot to do with your transition, which is the start direction coming into the downswing. The golfers that introduce more of a drive of the right elbow will introduce more of a kind of external shoulder rotation, which means more of a right lateral bend, which is this way. The more you drive the elbow forward, the closer it's obviously going to get towards your right hip bone, which means you can hold onto the angle for longer between the relationship between the arms and the shaft, which means you can release the club later. That's why we tend to see the more athletic golfers, the ones that hit it further at the point of impact, tend to look more this way. Right elbow much closer towards the right hip, looks a lot more solid than some of the golfers that look a little bit this way. If you're a golfer that looks this way at impact, it's generally because you have got the transition area wrong. It means that you are kind of coming down in the wrong direction, which means you have to compensate. And the main reason why your right elbow wouldn't look close towards your right hip. Finally, coming in towards the through swing then would again depend on the relationship of the club face. For a golfer who comes down with the club face more open, even if you've got the functionality correct and you're creating this rotation and this lateral bend, you're going to always need a rate of rotation of the club face coming in towards the hip to get the club face square. If you're having to do a lot of rotation of the club face, then what you'll see is that your right arm is going to roll more on top of your left, which in the through swing means the elbows are going to stay a lot closer together. There are also good examples on tour where golfers who get the club face coming down much squarer, right elbow would still drive in front like we've already discussed, but as they swing through it'd almost look a little bit more like a hold off position as to such a rate of rotation of the forearms. To be perfectly honest with you, as I'm discussing the functionality of the right elbow, for me, I would probably put most of your attention and focus going into the top of the backswing and the transitional area. You know, impact and the through swing would normally be a byproduct of the previous models, you know. So a golfer that looks this way, for example, might want to look this way. But the reason why you're not going to look this way and you look this way is more to do with the sequence of events that are coming in towards the downswing. It might be because of the position that you are at the top of the backswing. Meaning, let's say we took a golfer who elbows too low at the top of the backswing, they don't trigger enough rotation, so the shaft comes down too vertical, where they're always going to hit the ball this way because it's the only way they can get the club on the back of the ball. This part might not look very desirable, but there's no point trying to endeavour to change this because it won't just change on its own. This is normally a cause and effect movement, so is impact. Your impact will always look powerful and how you want it to if the sequence of events of the backswing coming into the downswing lend itself to looking that way. Meaning that if I go back good, I get up to the top good, I'm creating rotation, I'm putting weight pressure in the right side. If I can create this shallowing move whilst triggering rotation, then there's absolutely no reason for impact to look solid. Impact will look good, which is why it generally looks good for professional golfers and better amateur golfers, because the sequence of events leading towards impact have been technically much more sound, and that's why they will look a lot better. So my advice is really that the right elbow serves a real big purpose in the golf swing, not only in the takeaway at the top of the backswing right over lead, probably the change of direction is the most significant importance of the right elbow. If you're somebody who pulls the club, the elbows will tend to split and you're never going to get that shallowing of the club. How much you do these movements is why there's no definitive answer. You know, you don't have to be in a perfect position each and every time, but you do need the ability to do some of the things that I've discussed if you're endeavouring to get better at golf. As ever, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, hopefully you found it useful. Always appreciate one of those. Remember, you can press that subscribe button. It's absolutely free to press the subscribe button. You press the little bell icon, and if you press that little bell icon, that means you'll receive notifications every time a new video comes out, which means you don't miss an update every time I put a video out, which is on pretty much a daily basis. What is also absolutely free is that if you want to send your swings into me, loads of swings are coming into the channel now, you can send them in on the social media platforms, which are in the description below. Basically, it's an opportunity for you to send your swings in. I can offer you a few little tips and pieces of advice, or I can use the content on the channel so that we can all learn together. Because one of the problems in golf is not necessarily understanding the logic as to what somebody's trying to suggest. It's the self-diagnosis to get you there. Understanding, like I said earlier, if you look at it this way, doesn't matter how much you try and work on impact drills, it will be something in either the backswing or the transition into the downswing that will lend itself to you looking that way, which is why I'm happy to help. Always appreciate one of those as well, and I'll catch up with you again tomorrow.